It's 2019, and not only is the FDR X3000 almost 3 years old, but it's still one of the only action cameras with a built-in 3.5mm audio jack. But with GoPro continuing to release fire high-end action cameras, is the FDR still worth getting? Let's find out. What's up everyone, I'm the Everyday Dad, and if I can figure it out, you can figure it out. The only good way to start out an action camera video is to mention how much I love action cameras. So, I love action cameras straight up. I've always loved them, and now that I have the ability to, to check out so many of them, I feel myself incredibly fortunate, because they are just, for some reason, they fascinate me, and I don't know why. But really quickly, before we get too far into the video, I do want to thank my friends over at B&H Photo for sending this to me on loan. If you'd like to get your very own FDR X3000, because maybe it's still on top, who knows, we haven't done the video yet, it could very well be one of the best action cameras ever. There will be links in the description below. Let's get to it. Now, I was planning on heading out for some mountain biking for this video, but when I attempted it earlier today, my continually broken toe just doesn't allow for that. So we're going to be treating the FDR X3000 today as more of a traditional camera, since I can't really action the crap out of it, so I'm broken a lot. And on that note, there are 4 things that I judge cameras against, so let's find out how many of the columns of quality will the Sony get right, and how many of them will it fail on. First up, video quality. Dang, a good one right out of the gate for the FDR. That's probably its biggest strength. So let's get into this oddly shaped action camera from Japan. Video quality includes both image and audio aspects, and darn it if the FDR X3000 doesn't do both really well. I'm gonna say this is a story of uniqueness. It has 3 features that no other camera of its style has: field of view, stabilization, and audio. We'll get to that, but as far as recording specs go, this is a 1/2.5-inch 12 megapixel CMOS sensor, and it can record in up to 4K 30 frames per second. If you need slow motion, it can do 1080p at up to 120 frames per second. And one of those unique features we talked about is the FDR X3000. It lets you have actual separate focal lengths that you can record video in. You have the option of wide, medium, and narrow when you're recording in 1080p, and those work out to roughly 17, 23, and 32 millimeters on a 35mm full frame camera. Now, why I say that's unique is if you consider like an action camera like a GoPro, it does crop in, but even when it crops in, it still has that weird fisheye distortion. It actually looks like you're using a camera that just so happens to have a 17mm, 23mm, or 32mm lens on it. There is very little distortion to be found, fisheye distortion, and that is a huge benefit in my book. Like, you show me another camera that can do this same thing. I'm waiting. Another very unique feature about the X3000 is its stabilization. Nowadays, everything is stabilized. You're stabilized, I'm stabilized. Heck, even cell phones have stabilization in them anymore. But in the small camera world, this camera stands alone as having optical image stabilization instead of the more common electronic image stabilization. This means that the lens itself is moving around in the housing a small amount, and that smooths out the shakes and movements, and darn it if it doesn't do a great job. Seriously, this is some of the best stabilization you'll find on the market of any camera. Almost 2.5 years old, and it just works so well. But when I say video quality, I specifically mentioned earlier how important audio is also, and the third unique feature on the FDR is it actually has a 3.5mm audio in jack built into the camera body itself. Yes, let's pause for a second and take that in. They're yelling downstairs. I say this is unique because GoPro doesn't have it, DJI doesn't have it, Yi doesn't have it, Garmin doesn't have it. Nothing else in this realm of small sensor durable cameras has this feature, and it makes the X3000 such a powerful tool. But don't take my word for it, let's hop outside real quick for the oh so important video / vlogging test. Welcome to the vlogging test of the Sony FDR X3000. Now the reason we're doing it this way as opposed to an action video is my toe is still broken, so we kind of got to make do with what we got to make do, and I love breaking out this little device. Like, I 3D printed this, and it is the perfect thing for the FDR X3000 to get like legitimate audio out of a Rode. Now the thing you're gonna have to do, since there's no gain control on the Sony camera itself, once you turn it on, you have to turn the gain on the microphone down. So we're gonna turn it down to -10 decibels. We're gonna turn off the high pass filter that I used to use. And yeah, vlogging test begin. Whoa. Okay, so this is the vlogging test of the Sony FDR X3000. We do, have a microphone plugged into it, which is one of the insane benefits of this camera. Like, the camera has really good image quality by itself, but the fact that it's 2019 and this is still one of the only cameras to just have a dedicated 3.5mm audio in jack, that's like, everybody should be doing that. Like, every single camera company out there should be doing that. Not only that, but the optical image stabilization built onto this thing is a beast, and you're seeing that right now. And it's got a nice wide angle. We're doing this in 4K, which means we're stuck with the wide. In some of the tests we'll do here in a little bit, you can crop it down into medium and narrow. And another thing that I just like about this camera so much is you don't get a lot of the fisheye distortion that you normally get on, say, like a GoPro. And we'll see that here later this week when we compare this against the GoPro Hero 7 Black. Both great cameras, both have great stabilization, but when you get the GoPro wide, you start getting that fisheye distortion, and I don't find that as much on the Sony FDR X3000. It's a fantastic camera. It weighs like nothing right now to have this with a legitimate microphone, a little setup that you just 3D print. If you have a 3D printer, it takes like no time, and then you just go. Like, it's so easy, it's so useful. And I used to vlog with it, like 2 years ago when I used to vlog with this little thing, and nobody cares when you have this because it doesn't even look like a camera. Look at that. Does that look like a camera? It doesn't look like a camera. Nobody cares when you have this thing, but it's just great. So yeah, I love the stabilization. Here, let's do a running test. We're running. Oh, broken toe, running with a broken toe. But I have my boot on. Can you see my boot? Okay, running test, vlogging running test. Downhill running test, surprise! These people think I'm crazy. Okay, vlogging test over, back to the video. And welcome to the indoor/studio test of the Sony FDR X3000. Now this is the exact same setup that you just saw on my GH5. You can actually see that we're still recording with the GH5 just to show this cool little, cool little shot. The audio though is, just because I'm having the audio come out of the Rode VideoMic Pro Plus, just like I would in a studio setting normally. So I think it's pretty cool. But yeah, this is the low light because it is, I keep my studio pretty low lit. That's why I use a fast prime lens on the two cameras you saw so far today. So my light's currently set to like 64%. I don't know if you can see that. So this is an indoor/studio test of the FDR X3000 4K 30 wide actual microphone. I love this camera. It's really, really good. But I assume since it's not really meant for indoors, this is probably not doing it any favors. But okay, back to the video. And we're back. So it's basically a perfect vlogging camera. Light, discreet, stabilized, fantastic audio, low light, but this kind of camera is not really meant for low light in the first place. However, video quality is only one of the columns, and this next one isn't very kind to the FDR X3000, and that's fiddliness. What is fiddliness? That's basically how much fiddling with the camera do I have to do to set it up the way I want. More fiddly is bad. And the one real problem with the X3000 is you have to fiddle with this darn thing a lot. And there isn't really any easy way to work through the settings. You do have this LCD screen on the side, but to get through the menus, that involves a pretty archaic slog through old-timey button presses. And if you want to go past the menu you wanted, well, whoops, you gotta go all the way back. Yeah. Really. Plus, if you aren't very familiar with the nomenclature, some of these options could be very confusing. I've been using this camera on and off for about the last 2 years, and it's still confusing to me. What does this even mean? Right? Something I want to hone in on, again, even though we already mentioned it outside, is if you want to use an external microphone with the FDR to get the best results, you need to turn off Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, you need to turn off every internal connection. It needs to be set off because for some reason it causes weird things to happen to your audio. Plus, if you have a microphone with gain control like the Rode VideoMic Pro Plus we were using earlier, you need to set that gain all the way down. This thing has some pretty powerful preamps in it, and you got to turn your gain all the way down or you will just peak all of your audio, and that's a bad thing. Once the camera is set up and good to go, it's really easy to just turn it on and hit record. But there is going to be a very, very steep learning curve. Like, it's not the easiest camera to use. But what really matters is after it's set up, right? We could take all the time in the world to set up our cameras, but once you hit the record button, it's a whole other ball game, and that's when it's time for business, or as I call it, business time.
But how easy is it to use once it's business time? So once you hit record, how easy is it to get the footage you want out of it? Well, like we saw in the vlogging test, it's incredibly easy. I mean, yes, as we talked about a few seconds ago, when you're using the camera body, it's a little more fiddly. I mean, you see the screen's not very useful. It's really kind of hard to dig into those menus and get everything set up. But once it's set up, this thing's crazy easy to use. Like, the stabilization's awesome. It has everything's in focus anyway, so you don't have to worry about it. So if you're gonna use this, let's say as like a vlogging camera, all you have to do is make sure it's like kind of pointed at you, and it will get everything in focus. It'll be stabilized, it'll be great image quality. It's really hard to dislike this camera. Once you have all that good and you start to record, it's super light, the stabilization's great. It's just, all around, it's a great camera to use, and it absolutely works during business time. One of the things that, and I talk about this a lot, but one of the things when you have super light cameras like this is all of the shakes of the camera will, if it's super light, all of the shakes of your hand will go through the camera. But it has great optical image stabilization, so you don't have to worry about that. This is just a super simple, easy to use. Once you hit record, you get fantastic image quality almost no matter what you're doing. Oh, I could gush about this thing for hours, and we probably already have if you consider all of the time on the channel I've made videos about it, but okay, enough loving on it, back to the video.
We're back again. There is one more column yet to cover, and it's actually not as relevant as one of my normal interchangeable lens camera videos, but what does the upgrade path / ecosystem look like for the FDR X3000? Well, we've already greatly mentioned the audio port, which is incredibly important. Remember, don't forget how important that is. It comes with a waterproof case, which is awesome, but once you use that waterproof case, you lose most of your audio. But what's nice is there is an accessory you can buy that's a lens protector for the camera, so you don't have to worry about scratching the most important non-replaceable part of this camera with a relatively cheap insurance policy. If you get this, you gotta get that lens protector. There are gimbals and other accessories for it, but honestly, with as good stabilization as on this thing, I wouldn't get a gimbal for it unless you are taking it through some serious action that I just wouldn't get a gimbal for it. But at the end of the day, so what, right? Should you get a Sony FDR X3000 in 2019? Now, let's be honest, since the X3000 was released back in 2016, the world of these small cameras, we'll go ahead and call them action cameras again, that world has evolved quite a bit. GoPro went through some very drastic changes, but came out strong this past year with the Hero 7 Black, which also has some fantastic stabilization, amazing image quality, but that's still lacking some features that the FDR really kind of fixes. If you were looking for a small, light, discreet, portable, super user-friendly, stabilized vlogging type of camera, I would absolutely recommend the FDR X3000. And there's really nothing else that does the same things that this does. Those three unique features we talked about earlier, FOV, audio, and stabilization, it is like the perfect vlogging package. However, if you were looking for an action camera, I'd continue to recommend the GoPro Hero 7 Black. The waterproof body makes me feel way better when out in the elements, plus you don't lose your audio recording to make it waterproof. But we'll be doing a more in-depth video on the comparison between the two on Wednesday, so definitely you gotta come back and check that out. 6 p.m. Wednesday. But yeah, the FDR X3000 is awesome, still in 2019, and if you really need these features, nothing else can match it. It still stands alone as that oddly shaped camera. Thanks for watching.